Okay, so tonight we're going to begin our discussion about happiness and well-being, and whether mindfulness meditation can help us improve our happiness and well-being. I think happiness is important for many of us, and we would like to be happy and avoid pain and suffering. So in a survey that they did, which included a number of countries like the United States, China, Germany, Argentina, Australia, Greece, they asked a large number of people to rate how important happiness was to them from a scale of 1 to 7, 7 being most important and 1 being least important. And as you would expect, in America, it was rated pretty high, 6 and above. But in other countries as well, almost everybody rated happiness as a 6 and above. So we can see that actually to many people, happiness is pretty important. Now, when you realize that happiness is so important to us, why does it seem to be so difficult to achieve on a consistent and long-term basis? I imagine most of you who are watching this are wondering the same thing. Why can't I be happy most of the time? So even though that many people would like to be like that, I want to be happy in my life, it seems to be something that is hard to get to. It seems to kind of evade us most of the time. We do get spikes of happiness when we get something that we want, like a promotion, maybe being praised for something we've done, or maybe achieving a goal, or getting cool things like maybe a new phone, nice jewelry or clothes, a new car. But I think what most of us experience is that it fades pretty quickly. This sense of, oh, I'm really happy because I've got this thing. And then after a while, we're just back to our usual, normal level of, happiness. So why is it that somehow the new BMW doesn't make you as happy as it did on the first day that you got it? Or why isn't it when, say, the person you care about, you're close to, when they tell you, I love you, and you feel really happy, why doesn't that feeling last forever? And if they say it a few more times, it doesn't seem to have the same impact. So why is that? So that's one of the things that we will look at over these series of talks. And we've been around for quite a long time, modern man, Homo sapiens. And the archaeologists reckon we've been around for 200,000 years. So we're very intelligent and very smart. We invented cars, computers, nuclear bombs, and we've gone to the moon and come back. So why is it that we can't master such a simple thing as being happy most of the time? Why can't we figure out what the on switch for our happiness is and then switch it on whenever we need it? Why is that? So that's very intriguing, because we seem to be able to do most other things, but this thing, which is so important to us, like many people say, we can't seem to get at. But then also, why does it seem that some people seem happier than others most of the time? And why do some others seem less happy than others? Is there some reason for that? So, can we figure out how we can be happier with our lives and in our lives? So, in this series of talks, I'm going to explore with you together what happiness is, and then whether we can do anything to influence our level of happiness. So we're going to look at the science, which is very, very helpful, as well as the spiritual wisdom. What can they tell us? How can they help us? Can we assume that all spiritual practitioners are all happier people? Do you see this in your encounters with them? If it's true, why? And if it's not, why not? So I think that we have an opportunity in these next few weeks to ask these questions, to explore these questions, and not be afraid to ask them and see what we can discover about ourselves and about how we can become happier. And I know this happiness thing is such a cliche. Most people use it so much. I want to be happy, but it has some. I think it has some truth in it, because many of us are struggling in our lives to achieve a certain level of happiness, and we would love to be happier. I think that's almost a truth. So if I look back at my life, I can honestly say that in my 20s and my 30s, I certainly had more career or worldly success and financial success than I do now. I mean, I had to work pretty hard, but I had the fortunate karma of being able to become financially independent not too long after working. So, and I, felt that I really had achieved more than I thought I would in my career. And actually, it never really occurred to me that I would get that far. I thought, just get a middle level, fairly okay paying job, and that'd be it. And that's would be my lot in life. But it got, it was better than that. But despite that, I didn't feel that I was happier than when I compared my situation to when I was younger, when I was a student, and had less money, had less resources, and I was always worried about how to kind of get by and worry about my future as I got to graduation. I was much happier then than I was when I had all these other material things. And now, after more than 20 years of monastic life, and with less than I have when I was working, I can honestly say that I feel happier in my life and with my life than at any other time. So that's very interesting. And I can't say exactly why without looking more deeply into it. But one of the things that Zen Master Song San used to tell us, he's my teacher, he said, when everyone's happy, then I'm happy. When everyone's sad, then I'm sad. So he was never really about himself. It was really about others, acting for others. And I think that has some truth in it. There's some wisdom and some guidance for us in it. So even though I say that I feel happier than I've been in any part of my previous life, It doesn't mean that I don't experience any negative emotions. I do. I feel unhappy sometimes when I see something that upsets me. I feel sad. But that's all part of being human, you know. You can't be happy without being sad. It's just like two sides of the coin. But the interesting thing is that the negative emotions don't really stay, and they don't impact my overall levels of well-being or happiness in any significant way, you know. They just pass, and then after that it's okay. So I used to say, you know, even if I don't feel okay, that's okay. Because it's okay to feel not okay, if you get what I mean. So, many years ago, I went to spend a few months at a spiritual community where happiness was one of the things that was emphasized. And many people there were trying to practice being happy. Even though the situation within that community was very challenging, or their personal lives were very challenging, they were trying. So that's the important thing about, I think, happiness, that also tells us something, that it can be something that is actually developed. It can be something that can be practiced. We can practice certain things which can affect our levels of happiness. And well, you know, it was actually, living in that community for those few months was quite interesting for me, because I came from a different kind of tradition, you know, the Zen tradition, where the emphasis is much more on strong sitting practice and in the pursuit of spiritual awakening. And, you know, happiness wasn't really such a big kind of thing that was emphasized. Harmony was important, you know, harmony within the community was important. So yeah, it was very interesting, and I certainly learned a lot from there. So what does the Buddha say about happiness? So this is from the Dhammapada, and I'm going to read a bit because it is quite long. So he talked about the many contrasting types of mental happiness. The happiness of household life and that of monastic life. The happiness of sense pleasures and that of renunciation. Happiness with attachments and taints, and happiness without attachments and taints. Worldly happiness and spiritual happiness. The happiness of concentration and happiness without concentration, and so on. It's quite a long list, so if you're interested, you can check out the Dhammapada. Then he also said there are numerous ways of bringing happiness. Friends bring happiness when a need has arisen. Pleasant is contentment with whatever there might be. Merit is pleasant at life's ending, and pleasant is the destruction of all suffering. Happy it is in the world to be a mother, and happy it is to be a father. Happy in the world is the life of a recluse, and happy is the state of the Brahman, and so on. So, what is it actually pointing to? I think what it points to is that there are many possibilities for happiness in many situations. So it's not like one size fits all. That there are so many possibilities. We just have to know how to bring them about. So another way of looking at it, because everybody has their own definition of happiness. So another way of looking at it is that happiness is a sense of long-term well-being, peace of mind and satisfaction with our lives. So that's another way of looking at it, because everybody has a different way. The Dalai Lama said happiness depends on inner peace, which depends on warm-heartedness. So, do we need people to tell us what it's like to experience happiness? No, I don't really think so, and I'm sure you don't either, because you probably know very well when you are happy and when you are not. It's instinctive. Nobody has to give you a definition. You feel it. I'm feeling happy. So actually the best person to tell us whether we are happy or not is ourselves. So researchers call this subjective well-being. That means it's all subjective. It depends on us, because something that makes me happy may not make you happy. And something that makes you happy may not make someone else happy. So it's very subjective. But we know when we experience it. So, and it turns out that this self-evaluation, this subjective measure of happiness, is a very good measure and very accurate measure of how happy we are. So, if you want to get an idea of your level of happiness, and I'll put a link to it, you can take a subjective happiness scale quiz. It's only 4 questions, okay? And you can take it, in fact, it's recommended that you take it more than once over a kind of a period of time. The more often you take it, then the better idea you have about your level of happiness. So it's 4 questions, and then you just rate things on a scale from 1 to 7, I think. And I'll put a link to it. It was developed by a professor from the University of California in Richmond called Professor Sonia Lubomirsky. So she's a positive psychology researcher. And then she spends a lot of time researching happiness. And one of the things that she talked about happiness, it contains like 2 components. And one is that the experience of joy, contentment, and positive well-being. So this kind of good, positive emotions. But then that alone isn't quite enough. It has to be combined with a sense that one's life is good, is meaningful, and is worthwhile. So those are the things which contribute to our sense of happiness. And many people think some people are naturally happier than others, and some people are not as happy as others. And one of the interesting things in the research, and this is a very famous pie chart I'd like to show you, but I wonder if I can. Let me see. I'm going to try this, and if you can, I'm going to bring it up to the camera. Can you see that? There's like a delay here. So, here we have, okay, seems to be working okay. So here we have what determines happiness. And 50% is based on our, what we call genetics, or our, what we have inherited. So it isn't exactly, this is a rough guide, so don't be too fixated on the exact numbers. But roughly about half of our levels of happiness are affected by just our genes, you know. And then external circumstances are around 10% or so, 10-15%. Most people think that actually it's more than that. Most people think, oh, if I'm really rich, I'll be really happy. But actually, it's not such a big factor. Okay, some people can be not well off at all, but still have a relatively high level of happiness. And the other bit, the red bit, is the very interesting thing. Our actions and our thoughts, our intentions, our activities, that actually can influence our level of happiness. So that's very interesting, because what it does seem to suggest is that we have some ability to do that. Now, I don't know about you, but when I was growing up at school, at college, university, even at work, I was taught, study hard, pass exams, be a good boy, and everybody will like you. Okay, you'll be successful. You'll have money, you'll have a good career, you'll be able to get the things you want, you'll be able to meet the partner you want. But never in that time did anybody teach me what happiness was and how to be happy. Even though it seems to be a very, very important thing to all of us, that we all want happiness. But nobody actually teaches us. So that's an interesting thing. Why is that? Why is it that nobody actually tries to guide us into living happier, more fulfilled, more worthwhile lives? Instead, we always focus on the kind of what I would call the hard material things, and expecting that once we achieve that, we will get the happiness. So that's a question that I'd like to leave you with, and we will start to explore next week. So what is it that makes us happy? Are the things that we think that will make us happy actually, do they actually do that? So that's all I want to say for tonight, and I hope you'll join me next week to continue our discussion. I hope you found it interesting. If you do, please let me know, or if you have any questions, or if you disagree with anything, do also let me know. And thank you for watching. So before we end, I just have a couple of pieces of business. First is, if you find that our videos and our practice useful, please like us and share us, so help us reach a wider audience. And secondly, starting on Monday, there is this Taming Anxiety Challenge, which is being organized by a group called 10% Happier. And they're very good. It's a free app, and you can find more details in one of the posts that I posted earlier. What the challenge is that you only have to do 10 minutes every day, and it lasts for 10 days, but the challenge is to do 7 out of 10 days. So I hope you'll join me. It'd be great if you could. You don't have to be an anxious person to take this challenge, but it will help to develop your skills in case you might want to call on it in future. So hope you join us in this 10% Happier Taming Anxiety Challenge starting on Monday. So in the meantime, take care, stay safe, and hope to see you next week. Same time, same place. Thank you.